I think we should go ahead and get started if that's okay with you, gentlemen. I will kick us off. Welcome to the introduction to detections AI. Today we're going to be showing you some platform overviews and then we'll show you the actual platform capabilities in a demo led by Tim Peck. In case you missed it on your screen, I know folks are trickling in. There is an invite code if you aren't already part of Detections AI. Feel free to use community on the homepage landing page when you enter. You'll be able to build out your profile and get started. Feel free to do that now if you want to follow along with us while we dive into the demo. Otherwise, we can start with some introductions and then I will kick it on over to Tim. Cool. Like I said, I'm Caroline Matz. I'm part of the marketing team here at Detections AI. I'm joined with Erin Moog, our head of community, and Tim Peck, our director of threat research. Both of these guys will be incredible resources on the call, and Tim will be leading the demo. Cool. I can kick it over to you, Tim, or I can go over some housekeeping real quick.
Go for
Unless,
it. Yeah, go.
perfect. Awesome. So if you have any questions during the demo, please feel free to use the Q&A box, or you can use the chat, whatever is clever, whatever works for you. We will make it work. And then we will have a Q&A towards the end of the call, and we can answer those questions live. So whatever seems right, feel free to use the Q&A box, webinar chat, or hold them for the end, and we can go through and address them then. Otherwise, let's get started. Thanks so much. We're excited to have you guys.
Sweet. Thanks, Caroline, for the intro. So yeah, I'm Tim Peck, Director of Threat Research here. We're going to be jumping into the Detections AI platform. Pretty heavy. Well, kind of light, but we're going to do some pretty advanced, cool stuff with AI. You guys are going to like it. One fun thing you can kind of do as well is if you have two screens, follow along, join, build detections in synchronous as you watch. It's kind of a fun way to learn and for us to all kind of build together. Whole point of community. So yeah, let's jump in. My throat is really weirdly scratchy today, so I'll be taking a lot of water breaks. So hopefully that isn't too disturbing. Um, but cool, let's jump in. So we're gonna get through a few slides before we jump into the demos. Kind of setting the stage for who we are, why we are, what we're doing over here. So the first one is we're trying to solve a main problem that we're facing in detection engineering. So if anybody's worked in detection engineering, I'm sure you can all relate, whether you're on the vendor side or whether you're working for an organization. We're very reactionary, right, with what we do. So new CVE drops, requests from clients, requests from management, CISOs freaking out. So these three items I have listed here is a main problem that we're facing at that exact moment, right? Duplication of effort, threat intel overload, decentralized repository. So I'd say the biggest issue is that duplication of effort, right? So we're all detection engineers, we're all researchers, we're all diving in, we're all doing the same thing essentially. We're all pulling from the same threat sources and building detections that are designed to catch threats as quickly and as efficiently as we possibly can. So that's a huge waste of time. It's a huge waste of effort. So having a centralized platform is what we're trying to solve, getting everyone to work together, get out of those silos so we can respond to these threats quicker. So let's see if there we go. If I can get to the next slide. So that's the solution we're posing, right? Detections.ai. So the biggest thing that we're trying to do is build that online community, get the smartest, the brightest minds in detection engineering together, working together to respond to these threats. And when time is as critical as it is, that's what really matters. So the side effect too of us all working together are inevitably better detections, right? Like we're all really smart. We all know what we're doing. We've all been in the business for a while. And we all have our pools of information. Some of us are really focused on Linux, some on Windows, some, are gurus with Windows event IDs. And, we can build detections really quick. So when we're pooling all of that knowledge and taking out all those averages, we're able to not only build quicker, but build better, right? So second item there, actionable threat intel. This is a definitely like a core value we have. The fact that the better intel you have, the better detections you're going to have. So you'll see in this demo that we're going to do that threat intel is definitely a core system, core thing that we have in place for detection engineering. Yeah, and to become a single source for detection. So, our goal is when that CVE does drop, detections AI is just the go-to source because we're crowdsourcing all of that knowledge, right? Cool. So AI, detections AI. So how does AI fit into all of this? Well, that first one there reduces analyst toil, increases efficiency. If there's anything that AI can do really, really well, it's taking a huge amount of data and getting the meat of what you're trying to find. And in this case, actionable TTP, something we can do with that, right? A detection for this particular TTP, pull out these IOCs, pull out just interesting bits that are useful for crafting detections. So the whole idea is just to save time with that. Improving fidelity with rich context. This is huge too, because there's a lot of nuances too with when it comes to crafting detections. A lot of times, back when I was doing detection engineering full time, I would look at a threat report, I'd read through it, and in my mind, I would try to determine how I was going to detect this threat. And I still do that when I'm analyzing Intel, even today, before it shows up on the platform. And in my mind, I kind of have an idea of what the way this is going to be detected, whether it's like registry keys or process chains, those type of things. But just out of interest, I'll throw it into AI, see what it comes up with, and it surprises me with some really interesting context. Like it says here, specific Windows event ID. Maybe looking for like service start stop, something a little less common versus process start stops, right? So it's really good at sparking ideas, sparking that like second layer or that additional step into detection engineering that would end up being crafting really good rules or even correlation rules paired with your own existing knowledge. Scales threat intelligence across the organization. This is really good too, especially for filling in knowledge gaps. So if you're, say, like a Windows shop, but then you've got like a Linux CVE that drops and you're kind of venturing into uncharted territory at that part with like, okay, what Linux data sources do we have? What logs do we have? What can we do with those? This is really where AI can kind of shine, fill in some of those gaps. And of course, when you combine that with the community, we're crowdsourcing that information even further. Sweet. So how it all comes together. So the next few slides, just really quick high-level platform overviews before we go into the demo. Of course, we have a detections library. This is where all the detections on the platform are going to live that have been shared by other community members. Live searching, filters, CVE sorting, etc. Try to make it as easy as possible for you to find what it is you're looking for. Groups, super critical for working together, collaborating. Again, another huge community feature. Highly, highly recommend if you do work with a team and you get your team on this platform to work together in a group. As you'll see, there's different types of groups we'll get into a little bit. That'll kind of help tailor your need there depending on how you want to contribute. All right. And again, threat intel. We're going to dive into this really deep, so I won't really cover this. But again, threat intel, super critical to the platform. We, again, try to make it super easy to find if there's something you're looking for, a CVE, a technique, a particular process, whatever it is that's featured in that intel report. We try to make it as easy as possible for you to find. Cool. And of course, a detection library, your own personal library of detections. Everything you've saved on the platform will end up here and save, upload, create manually, create with AI. This is where it all ends up. Touch on this too as well. All right, let's jump into the demo. That is not what I wanted to click on, but we'll just leave it there. There we go.
Perfect. We can see your screen just to save you the classic. Can everybody see my screen? We
Perfect.
see it, Tim.
Does the resolution look okay? I think I might ask because I do have a wider screen.
Yep, it
Can
looks
you read the
great.
text? Should I zoom it in
Yep.
a little?
Nope, this is perfect. I think this looks great.
Okay. Yeah,
Awesome.
perfect. Yeah, thanks for chiming in. That's super helpful. Cool. So if you are familiar with the platform and you haven't been on a little bit, things might look a little bit different. I'll try to cover some of these changes as well. This is your first time ever seeing it. Welcome. We're going to touch on it regardless. Um, so once you're registered, signed in, you've used that community code, you're now landed on the homepage. This, what you're seeing here, becomes your homepage. And the two main things we see here are first the trending intel, and this is a handpicked, curated list of kind of high profile, prolific attacks that we've seen in the news. Again, these are handpicked by us. If they make their way to the homepage, they're probably impactful. They've got some good detections around them. I'm sure we're all a little scarred by some of these, the Notepad++ vulnerability that happened last week. Yeah, Claudebot, another big one we've got here. So yeah, this is a rolling list. Pretty nice. Click on this. It takes you to that Tide report Intel card we'll take a look at. We got a list of detections here underneath and who contributed to them. If you click on this, you get to see all 24, which is quite a few for that one particular threat. Um, Over on the right side, this is another feature we've recently introduced for leaderboards. Right now, it's set for February contributors. So if you've published a detection and shared it to the community, um, and you get enough of them, you'll end up on this February leaderboard here. Highly advise you to stalk our socials because there may be prizes for the winners. So take a look there, take a look at our announcements. And yeah, below that, popular groups. We'll get into groups a little bit later. So let's take a look at a report. Let's take a look at this top one. It's a really good example. So the Notepad++ supply chain attack. So clicking on that takes you to the report. Obviously, we have really good summaries on that. The two actionable things you can do is you can share this out, share it to socials, copy that link. If you are going to share it out to your socials, highly recommend you use this link versus copying the URL just to make sure that it goes through okay. Um, Another recent-ish feature we've added is a scoring system, and this scoring system is purely under the context of how this particular source rates for detection engineering. So you can see IOC quality, TTP details. If you click on any of these carets, you can see why it scored the way it did. Generally, any of the community intel or intel on the homepage, it'll score really well because, again, this was handpicked by us. We've got a nice summary here. Copy it out if you need to add it to your own internal reporting. And if you keep scrolling down, you get kind of the meat of why you're probably here, all of the community detections associated with this specific piece of threat intel that's referencing it directly. And you can see we have quite a few for this Notepad++ supply chain attack. Cool. We're going to dive back into this later and take some action on some of these. But before we do, let's kind of go through some more of these at a high level. Let's go into Discover detections. Like I mentioned earlier, this is where all of the shared detections exist. So if it's shared to a public group or if it shares to the default group, the detections AI community, anybody who joins the platform is automatically a part of this group. So when you share a detection, it's by default going to go to this group unless you specify a different one. So as you can see, we've got quite a good running list. I mean, just in the last couple hours, we have quite a few added. The one thing we try to do is to make it easy to find what it is you're looking for. We assume that anybody who comes to the platform is probably coming in with a goal or something that they want to respond to, or there's a request. So something you could do, you can use these filters to make it a little bit easier. So for instance, let's go ahead and just create a filter here. Let's knock it down to 7 days. Say you are a Sentinel shop. Let's look for some KQL. That's all you're going to care about. That's all you want. So 7 days KQL. Now we have 99 detections created for KQL in the last 7 days. Honestly, pretty good. Quite a few. Let's dive in a little bit further. So let's say you have a top contributor that you like to follow. Let's take a look at Rudra here. Rudra. Sorry if I'm butchering your name if you're listening. Um, you can see this contributor contributed 18 detections in the last 7 days. Let's take a look at some of these. I'm going to go ahead and click on this first rule here. This was created 8 days ago. So VS Code, Claudebot, again, pretty hot ticket item going on right now. So anytime you click on a detection, this is the main detection page. And again, if you were to share this out, it's similar to that threat intel. Highly recommend you use this share link versus copying the URL. Some things you can do, you can save that to your library. That will throw it down here in the detection library. We'll take a look at here in a second. You can give the rule a like if you like this rule. Honestly, it's a really good rule. I'm going to go ahead and like it here. Download it. That'll download it as a flat file straight to your computer or wherever you're looking at it from. And we do have some translate functionality as well. Actually, let me just show you that real quick. I'm not going to translate, but I do want to highlight some of the target rules. Honestly, Sigma is probably the best start. Um, you get a lot more options, but this page just allows you to take that and translate it into whatever your primary language is, whether it's a threat hunting query or whether it's another sim rule language. Let's go back. You can see the group that this is part of. Again, this is a public group because we can see it. So this particular author contributor is publishing, I believe, all of his detections into this particular group. And yeah, we got different tags, techniques, process creation, file creation, different MITRE attack techniques. So you can go ahead and click on any of these and it will open up a new search based on that filter. So if you're interested more in Windows Defender ATP log source or file creation events, you can click on any of those. And that about covers it from a detection page. Let's go ahead and jump back. Again, I'm kind of moving a little quick. If you have any questions, we are going to have Q&A at the end if I didn't spoil it for you already. But please feel free to throw some in chat. We'll get them all queued up and we'll happily answer any questions we have at the end here. All right, jumping back. Oh, one thing I wanted to show you real quick is the ability to save filters. Let's make this more useful here. So say KQL in 7 days is something you're going to come back to. You can actually save this filter, give it a name, and you can subscribe to email updates if anything new pops in. Really handy for responding to threats. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and save it here. And then what that does is it ends up right here in your save filters list. So you can obviously save as many as you want, pick from those, create whatever type of filter you want based on, we have quite a few criteria, CVEs, MITRE tactics, additional log sources. You can filter these down and get really, really granular if you wanted to. So since we are a community, let's jump back into this user's profile. So each contributor has their own profile. Kind of socializes it a little bit. If you've added your socials, those socials will be listed here. If you do like this contributor, you can go ahead and give them a follow. Um, and again, shared detections, this whole filter system should look pretty familiar. You can search for something particular coming from this user if you want, and then kind of go from there. Sweet. Let's jump over to groups. Sweet. We'll cover these at a real high level. I believe tomorrow, Aaron, our community manager, he's going to be doing a much more deep dive on these. So if you're curious, watching a group get created, some of the more technicalities behind groups, some cool capabilities that you can do, sharing them out. Highly recommend you take a look at that webinar tomorrow. But just for the sake of today, know that groups exist. There's different types of groups, public, private. Any public group you can go ahead and join. You can see some are grayed out, some are not. That usually means that it's moderated in some way, so there's some access control around it. Any public group you can go ahead and join and then start contributing to that group if you like. Excuse me, I'm gonna grab a drink here before my throat dries out. I'll just kind of show you here real quick if I can move this Zoom banner. If you click the create button, just real quick, these are the different types of groups that exist. So public basically means that anybody can join and contribute. Moderated, there's some access control around it, so you would have to request to join the group, or private. So the group and itself wouldn't be seen by the broader community. So if there's some sensitivities around like what you're allowed to in your organization share and not share, that helps with those considerations a little bit. Sweet. Let's jump over to the detection library. Another thing to note is this was another recent change where this sidebar was split out into community versus my workspace. So it makes it a little bit more logical based on what you're looking for. So the my workspace section is more catered to getting work done in yourself versus stuff that exists on the community. Okay, detection library. Let's take a look there. Cool. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, your detection library is basically where you've saved all of your either uploaded, generated, synced detections. Um, One thing to note is, again, we have these, excuse me, same search filters that we've seen before. A noteworthy thing here is the status of the rule. If it's in draft status, that means it's private to you. That means you've created it, but you haven't shared it. If it's published, that means you've shared it to some group at that point. Um, Another more recent addition that we've added is the MITRE ATT&CK coverage map. So say you have a bunch of detections, click on this MITRE coverage, and it transforms the view into a MITRE coverage map. So this is really handy for gap analysis, seeing what techniques you have or don't have coverage for. Obviously, you can look at the key here and see whether you're covered, partially covered, or not covered at all. So if you're looking to expand your coverage, we do make this really easy too. Let me show you an example here. I'll try to pick a random one. Let's see. Let's go with phishing under initial access. Ah, perfect example. So you can see I have partial coverage. It's highlighted orange with 3 sub techniques that do already contain rules. So you click on those, you can see which rules you have saved. And these could be from other community members' rules that you've saved or rules that you've, again, uploaded or synced in. So let's say you wanted to expand this phishing attack technique. Let's make it green. So spear phishing voice. So what you can do is search the entire library. Again, this is what the discover detection section is kind of where we're searching. Cool. So all of these rules that we've identified are tagged as spear phishing voice. So if there's any of these that you like, you can click on them, take a look at them. And if you do like it, go ahead and click that save to library. And what you'll see is this will turn green, filling out that entire section. So now we can see we've got a nice green. Is this where it was? No, I already lost it. Yeah, phishing. So now we can see we've turned that green. So at this point now we have full coverage. If you didn't want to add it from community, of course, you could generate your own based on a report. Feel free to go out and find some more intel that's related. Awesome. Other than that, yeah, some high level statistics up at the top. 246 out of 679 techniques. Quite a few techniques. Cool. Let's switch back to list view. Some other things you can do here that we're not going to jump into is syncing with GitHub. So if you do have a GitHub repo, you can, like what it sounds like, sync your detections with that. So it'll bring them in or sync them with GitHub back and forth. I do believe we have a YouTube video on this. If you find our YouTube socials, clicking on this link down here in the bottom left, all on basically how to implement that. So if you do host your rules, your detections out on GitHub, makes it really, really easy to bring those in. Sweet. All right, now we're gonna make things a little bit more interesting here. Let's jump back to Intel. And one noteworthy thing is there's 2 forms of Intel currently. There's your own personal Intel and there's also community Intel. Personal Intel is basically anything that you've added. If you click this add button, URL, file, text instructions, you name it. Those are the currently supported types that we have. Those will end up here. The Intel over here under community is community Intel. And again, these are picked by us. Again, they all score really well because these are catered more towards detection engineering. So let's go ahead and click on one of these. Let's go ahead and just click on this top one by Microsoft. All right, this one scored very well. Perfect 10 out of 10. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and create a detection from this. I'm going to go ahead and just create a Sigma rule. It's real easy to kind of see at a high level. Makes for great demos. So what this is doing is it kicked us over, you'll notice here on the left, to this create with AI. And what it did is it opened up a chat window. I'll kind of scroll up here. It loaded that intelligence and then just added a auto prompt that's basically just telling it, hey, take a look at this threat report and suggest some detection opportunities. So first thing it's going to do is it's going to give you a nice breakdown summary, a little bit about this threat, what makes it new, and then some actionable threat data. Again, you can copy this out again if this is something you want to add to a report, email, attach it to a detection you may save in the future. And you get what you ask for. So we got 4 detection recommendations. So we got 4 cards here. You can toggle with these arrows. Gives us some MITRE attacks, gives us the pyramid of pain ranking. We got TTP, host artifacts, hash values. Let's go ahead and create one off of finger.exe Lulben's abuse pattern. Let's see what it gives us. So I clicked that generate detection button, and it's going to kick off the detection engine. All right, I'll kind of scroll down a little bit. One cool thing you can do is click this little arrow, and you can kind of see what all goes into crafting these detections. If you can even read that. Text is a little bit smaller than the rest. Sweet, done. All right, so we've got our rule. Let's see what we got here. We got our Sigma rule. Overall looks pretty good. Command line, process based. So all of this is based off of that analyzed threat intel from Microsoft. So let's see. Cool. Let's go ahead and save it. Say you like this rule. Click the save button up here. What it's going to do is it's going to take you to an edit screen. So this is kind of an interim screen that'll allow you to modify it, um, change some of the tags, data sources before you actually save it to your library and share it out. Sweet. So highly recommend clicking the autofill button. It'll help kind of reanalyze this and add some data sources. It'll pull out any of the associated CVEs if needed. One cool thing to note is that anything you do on one side or the other will be automatically reflected. So if I wanted to add my name here as the author, I could just do Tim at, and you'll see it reflected over here. Perfect. So yeah, you're done editing. Go ahead and save it. I'll just save it. This will save it to my library. You can also update and publish it. This will save it to your library and also publish it to a group. And if you've just signed up and you're only a part of the Detections AI group, it'll publish it there. Sweet. And now we've saved it. Again, this would be in draft status. If there's any special instructions, highly recommend you add them here. If there's any nuances that you can foresee, maybe some false positives, anything that might be helpful to the broader community. At this point, say you like it, you can go ahead and click that publish button, and then you can send it over to community, and then everybody would be able to see it. Sweet. So that's a really good TTP style rule for the technique. Let's jump back. I'm going to go ahead and click on this create with AI button. So say you wanted more. You're like, oh, you know what? I want another rule for that technique or that particular piece of threat intel. You don't have to go through and regenerate it again. Go back to Intel, hit create with detection, create with AI. What you can do is you can jump over to create with AI, click the chat history button, and it will save pretty much everything you do here. So as you can see, this should look pretty familiar. It took us right back to where we were right before we hit that save button. So say you wanted, in addition to a good TTP style rule, let's generate an IOC style rule. Let's see if we have one here. Hash values. Perfect. Again, super specific, but handy for threat hunting. All right, got exactly what we were looking for. So one thing you'll notice, anytime you do a second action, you'll get some tabs up here so you can jump back and forth between these rules. You'll see here currently viewing is highlighted on that finger.exe lolbin rule, and now we have our hash-based rule over here with currently viewing. So say you like it, at this point we can save. I'm not going to save it and run through that again, but just to give you an idea of just to save yourself a little bit of time, if you do want to create multiple rules off a single piece of threat intel, it's a great way to do it. Sweet. All right, let's shift gears here a little bit. What we're going to do is I want to show you the value of what adding additional context to the whole AI rule generation context can make. So I have saved here. Sure you remember this particular CVE, and sorry for the jarring color transition. This is in dark versus light. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this WSUS vulnerability dropped late last year, full remote code execution, overall really bad. Let's go ahead and add this to our personal intel. So one thing you can do is you can add it here or just drop it into a prompt here, and that will automatically save into your own personal intel. I'll just add it here to show you the process. It's URL, I'll just call it WS. Just to save time, you can throw in that CVE as well if you want. That didn't copy, but all right. All right, let's get that added. So you can see in the background that threw it in. It's going to do some AI stuff. It's going to generate those scores like we saw earlier. It's going to generate those descriptions. We'll give AI just a second to do its thing, and then we'll take a look at it. Perfect. That was pretty quick. All right. Go to 6 out of 10. Not horrible. Sometimes for specific CVEs, we get a little bit lower scores. Um, Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead and just create a detection off of that now. We'll follow that same process. All right. Detection's loaded. Threw in the prompt. Let's see what it comes up with. All right, we got our nice summary. Oh, I already got our detection recommendations. Perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and just click on one of these. Open that up for entertainment value. Perfect. All right. So we've got our WSUS child process rule. This should look pretty familiar if you've ever dealt with any type of exploitation to the IIS worker process. I do believe this was a new addition as well. Overall, pretty good rule. You may see some false positives with this. I wouldn't say it's unique to this particular CVE. You'd probably catch a bunch of other CVEs, or maybe even some web shell activity. Take a mental snapshot of this. I'm not going to save it. But what I'd like to do, let's jump back to create with AI. So what I'm going to do is I have here a actual POC code for this exploit. So what you can do is you can combo these Intel sources together and feed both at AI. And what it'll do is it'll analyze both, and what you end up with is much more actionable data. So I'd like to kind of highlight that. So let's go ahead, let's add some Intel. I'm going to go to personal. Let's throw in that, whoops, I clicked on it. That WSS vulnerability. And then what you can do, like I said, you can drop in another piece of Intel. So now we've got both of them attached here. Let's just give it a prompt. We'll do Sigma and let's roll. So now you can see we've got both pieces of thread Intel loaded in. Let's see what it gives us. And one thing to note is that this is fully interactive. Sometimes the AI will ask you for things. Like sometimes when I've loaded in multiple, it will ask, which one would you like to analyze? And you can tell it both or one or the other. So, and that's true even after you're already at the detection screen. If you'd like to change the detection, you'd like to add some details that maybe you noticed that AI missed or stuff that you've seen in previous campaigns. Cool. Let's go ahead and generate. That's interesting. It gave me recommendations. I think this is the first time I've done this where normally it'll just jump in and create the detection without giving us a recommendation. So that's kind of funny. Kind of what you get, I guess, when you combo AI with live demos. You do have some loose variables. Always keeps you on your toes.
And while AI is thinking, I want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, please drop them in the webinar chat or in the Q&A box. Don't worry about interrupting. We can always answer questions on the fly. Just a quick reminder. But it looks like AI did its thing. So back to
It
you,
did
Kevin.
it.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So perfect. We've got our rule. This one's pretty awesome rule. Well, obviously our log source is shifted here because we're looking for that attack in flight. in those web server logs directly. I do, if I were creating a rule for this type of vulnerability, web server would be my go-to as well. Um, Given, especially working on the vendor side, I've seen a lot more web server style logs exist versus process level logs, process start stops. While I definitely encourage both, defense in depth is always great to have, but web server, IIS logs are super, super common to bring into your SIM. So overall, this is a really good rule, and you can definitely see it targeted a lot of that data found inside of that actual POC, that exploit code. Um, but anyways, thus concludes the demo. Again, super high platform overview. Hopefully, this helped answer some questions you have on the platform and some of its capabilities. Um, Definitely feel free to reach out to any of us on the call if you have any other further questions. But let's do some Q&A to get some of those out now. I am going to turn it back to you if I can battle Zoom. There we go.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, there were a few questions in the Q&A that we answered during the process about conversion and some question about the webinar tomorrow. But obviously, we're here now. If you guys have any questions, I can certainly unmute you if you raise your hand or if you want to type it out. Otherwise, if we don't have any of those, I'd like to really genuinely thank everybody for joining. It's great to see everybody on the call. We will send out um, a link at some point to this being on our YouTube channel, which is great. So everybody can rewatch it or share it internally. And as always, Tim and I are here to answer any questions that you might have. Caroline, too, if you have questions tomorrow about the contributor side of things and how to sort of grow your brand and things like that, that's great. Other than that, I don't see any chat coming in and I don't see any QA coming in. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up, give everybody a chance to get back to their Mondays. But we thank you all so much for being part of the community, being part of this Detections AI world that we are trying to create. So if you have any questions, there's me on my internet, Detections AI, Tim's at Detections AI. Find us on LinkedIn, and feel free to come at us with anything you have. So thank you everybody for joining. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Bye everybody.